There's three. You need to go back out. There's three here. So what do we do now? There we go. Wow, look, we can do that. That's not really supposed to be.
You said something like that.
That's not right.
She did.
Okay.
It works.
Oh no. All right.
It works.
Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Hope you guys are doing well on this Monday night. We are entering in the summer months. I don't know about you, but I'm ready for the summer. I know many people are ready for this pandemic to loosen up and get back to the normal. Concerts. Do y'all miss the concerts? The outdoor concerts. I was never a big concert goer, but I wouldn't mind it right about now. If you are watching tonight, check in with us. Let us see your name on the screen. It is Monday night. The Relationship Doctors. I'm Dr. Tim, and that's Lady Mo. Got some neo soul rocking. Y'all like that? That's a nice groove. Yeah. Snuggle up with your significant other tonight. Let's dialogue. Let's have a conversation. Let's speak to the heart of the matter tonight. We try to do that every week that we're on. But let's rock and roll. Yes.
I like that song.
I tell you, I know it was a nice groove. I don't know what it was. It was just a nice groove. It was a nice groove. Oh, they even have the names. Wow. I didn't realize that. You see that?
No.
Oh, it had the name of the track.
Oh, okay.
Right there. I didn't notice that.
How's everybody doing?
It's going to be a great night.
Yeah, it should be.
It's going to be a hot night. Fire.
All right.
Let's get after it. As my man Como would say. Let's get after it.
Really?
Let's get after it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Welcome again, everybody. Share the video with your friends. We want to hear from you tonight. We love your feedback. Always. Good feedback makes for good impact. Good feedback makes for good impact. Let's have an impactful tonight. Let us hear from you. Don't
Good feedback.
Makes for good impact. Let's have a conversation. Don't just sit on the couch and watch. Participate. Jump in. Let us hear from you. Type in the notes what your thoughts are. First things first. Prioritize. Where would we be without priorities? You've got to set them. Remember, we've been talking about prioritizing, perfecting, and what's the other P, Mo? Practice. Prioritize, practice, perfect. Mimic, model, master. Praise the Lord, Dr. Michael Freeman. Give him credit for it. I'm going to own it. That's it. Well, let's go. It's time to go. Let's get after it. Busy day today. How was y'all day today?
I'm sure everybody's still tired from Mother's Day.
You think so?
Yes, all those
Is
people.
Mother's Day draining like that?
It is.
For who? The mothers or the people?
Both. Both.
It's draining receiving a lot of gifts and hugs and kisses. That draining. Mothers ain't cooking.
That's not true. Some mothers cook.
Most mothers are not cooking.
I cook sweet potatoes.
Yeah, you did.
A lot of people cook.
Yeah, okay.
A lot of people do cook.
Yeah, you did.
I believe you. A lot of people do cook.
Moms get breaks on Mother's Day.
Okay.
Most of the time, they're not in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the kitchen. You know that is true.
You ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
You got a big dot on your head. You see that? Is that me? You see that dot?
I see. You didn't have to make light of it.
Yes, I did. I want to see. Let me do something for you.
Is that my? Oh, I don't know what that is.
It's the camera.
Yeah, it must be a camera. I keep my head up like that. I still see that dot.
Welcome everyone to Relationship Doctors tonight. Talking about prioritizing. Talking about what's important to your spouse should be important to you. And I think many of us go wrong in this area because we compartmentalize what's priority in your individual mind and not as a couple. Because if something you say is important and you would like that individual, your spouse or your significant other, to prioritize in that area, just because it's not important to you doesn't mean that it should not be important to them. When they say it to you, it should be even more important. That's just me.
I'll buy that 100%.
Well, I mean, not many people buy it, but we want you to not to just buy it, but buy into it. It's a difference.
I totally agree with that.
Difference to buying into something. I agree with what you're saying, and then buying into it, meaning I'm going to make that adjustment and be consistent with it.
A demonstration.
Because if you say it with your words, but your actions never line up with your words, then that tells me that you really never was in your heart in the beginning.
And why? I mean, just playing devil's advocate. Why is that important to having a successful relationship, a fluid union? Why is that so important?
Because if you're not willing to make the necessary changes, that says that you're either cannot or you will not.
Well, I think more often than not is will not, because I think we can do whatever we set our minds to do. But I think I asked that question because it smokes out the value of the principle of prioritizing. because when there is no value, there's oftentimes no action. When there's no action, there's no demonstration of commitment. When you don't, you value things differently,
When I was,
different levels of value. Hey, Tadisha and
hey,
Jamal,
Ty,
how y'all doing?
when you said that to me, I was thinking no value, no consistency. Because you are your habits. Your habits really control who you are. Your habits really tell us who you
They
are.
reveal.
Your habits tell us who you are.
Right. Mhm.
You can use the word reveal, that's fine, but they tell us who you are.
The same
And
thing.
yeah, but what I'm saying is because when you value something, that means you care for it and it's important to you. When you disvalue something, that means you can go with it or without it. Depends on how you feel.
Mhm.
But to me, no value means there will not be any consistency. When you don't value something, you take advantage of it, you misuse it, you abuse it,
Mhm.
you don't think of it as a necessity.
Yeah.
So you just do whatever your heart desires at that particular time.
Mhm. And so priorities have to be. Uh, you're speaking of prioritizing in reference to making in reference to what prioritizing. What's the motive behind it? The motive is to
I said that in the beginning. What's important to your mate should be important to you. For example, some people say, well, when you get home, just, text me, let me know you got home. Or, when you get to your destination, let me know you got there. When you come in, perhaps you like a hug. Everybody's different. But whatever is important to the other individual has to be important to you. And the problem is in our minds, we don't see why that's so important, but it really doesn't matter. It only matters if the other person wants that or needs that to feel that you value what they require or suggest.
Oh, I agree. I totally agree.
But again, agreements is nice, but an agreement with no action is nothing. That means nothing.
So if there's no commitment upon the agreement,
And then you're just saying it you're just saying it to appease them.
It's in
You're
vain.
saying it to appease them, and it's not really in your heart.
So if we find ourselves in situations like that, what's the solution to getting getting into a more fluid relationship and not being disappointed? Because um, we got to be able to stop the skid when we see that happening. Oftentimes, the failure in relationships occur because things are not addressed over periods of time.
Sometimes, yeah, but a lot of times they already know. I was just saying that if the person has made you aware, then you know.
Well,
You just have to make a conscious decision that you're going to value their opinion, or you're going to value what they need or what they require. And by you doing that, that sets a precedent in your spirit that this is what they desire.
okay,
I'm just saying,
okay.
You hear people say all the time, well, they say they're going to do this, but they never do it, or they said they were going to, we were going to do this together, we haven't done it. It's like broken promises. Is when it's broken promises, and you know what happens when you tell children you're going to do something and it's a broken promise. They feel not valued, they feel not loved, they feel not thought of and not heard. All those things.
That's all good and well, but then how do you get to the place where you can make it work again?
You tell me.
You gotta. I hear what you're saying.
You tell me.
So you believe this is a major problem in relationships, the lack of prioritizing
Really?
the other person's needs?
Not just needs, is what to keep the relationship going. There's a whole big picture, and just by you saying that says to me that most people think like you.
Mm.
This is major.
No, I
This is
wasn't.
major?
I never said it wasn't. I was just making a statement. because that's how people's minds are. That's people are thinking that.
Really?
So I'm
What people are you referring to?
I'm talking about people in general.
I wouldn't think that.
Oh, you wouldn't think
No. Mm-mm. Absolutely not.
that? Well, I think that if you want to build the bridge back to a better situation, it's going to begin with an establish of agreement. You have to be in agreement. You have to be in agreement for what those values are. The core values. I think you said. I mean, the core values. You got to revisit the core values. You have to revisit core values because core values are centered around the must-haves, and you got to revisit. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're on the other side of that spectrum and you feel like the other person is not valuing what you believe is important, you got to revisit the core values.
I like that.
You got to revisit the core values. You got to have a conversation about what the core values is. Sometimes we say repetition is the mother of all learning. That's true in all cases. So what do y'all think, Tadisha?
And I think what I was going to say is that it comes with maturity. It comes with maturity when you what's the word I'm looking for? When you disvalue your mate's things that are important to them, that says that you have lost and you have taken for granted the relationship.
Yeah, I like that. I think
you're taking advantage of it, and that people leave for that.
Yeah,
they'll say, "I'll go find somebody else who wants to pay attention to me or whatever is important to that person."
You stop sowing. The law of reciprocity begins to adversely affect your relationship.
It's amazing. People only sow when it's convenient.
Really?
Many people only sow. Many people, not everyone, when it's convenient. It's amazing how when you're in a marriage or a relationship and you think about doing good, when you have to think about doing good, think about the other person, that means you're not there yet. When you have to overthink it, when you have to really, that means that person is not really a part of your heart. Because, that's just me. You should, because you're two becoming one, you should be thinking about them all the time, thinking about other ways to please them, other ways to make sure that their life is happy, or just doing your part. To me, it's just doing your part. And when you fail to do your part, that means you have stopped doing your part, but you don't want to do what's required. That's just me. I'm just saying.
I think
somebody has to constantly remind you to do the things that you know you should be doing, then you need a heart checkup. It's a selfish spirit is what it is. It's really selfish. Because remember, two becoming one. But if the other person is always responding with a individual mentality, and it is never thinking about the other person, not saying never, but most of the time they're not, and they always have to just like, okay, I got to think about my spouse, or I got to remember that means it's not in your heart. You have not taken on the spirit of oneness. You're still living separate, your own mind, because really you're supposed to be coming together as one with one mindset. Yeah, you may have different opinions, but one mindset, one vision, one voice, unity. And it should, these things to me are relationship 101. And when you disvalue that individual, you have to go back to, like you said, go back to relationship 101. Cool. And if you've been married for a minute, we should have to go back to the minute the person mentions something to you, it should click. Okay, I don't drifted back into relationship 101. That's just like when you have a relationship with God and all of a sudden you slip or you do something. You should be able to say, "Oh, I done slipped. I haven't done that in years. I haven't said that in years." you slip back into that old behavior because you disvalue the individual. You just value how good God has been to you. So, we have to value. That's just like Mother's Day was yesterday. Some people have lost their mother. And now I'm thinking, wow, I should have did this. I should have did that. I should have said that. Those kind of things. So we have to value the person that you're in communion with. So we don't have to keep going back to relationship 101, keep going back and back and back and forth. It just makes life easier. I was watching Steve Harvey this morning. Well, I was glancing, and I saw on Instagram on how it was Mother's Day and how he had showered her with all these gifts. And it wasn't necessarily about the gifts, but she said, what kind of person thinks of this kind of stuff? He had flowers, he had shoes, he had clothes, he had pictures. It was just beautiful. And she says, I love all these gifts. I love them, She said, but who takes the time to really think about something like this? And she says, you do, Steve. He's just sitting there. That's someone who values relationship. He values her enough to know that I must do everything I can. If I can afford it or I can't afford it, what value, meaning giving at your level. Whatever level you're at, you should give at that level. Stop shortchanging the person because you have dysfunctions or you're still at 101 or you slidden back into that old behavior. You should never slide back into that old behavior because when you do that, you open the door for somebody else to come in and you might find yourself by yourself. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think it wasn't like I think if I'm hearing you correctly, it wasn't just about the gift.
It wasn't about the gifts. Why? Because he always buys her gifts.
Yeah, it was the thought.
Exactly.
It was the thought of knowing that someone was thinking
about you. That's right.
Constantly in that way was the gift.
When you go through a day and not thinking about how to please your mate, that's just me. Thinking about how to please your mate, you slip back into relationship 101 and you need to go back to the dating 101 because dating 101, most couples are thinking about one another. Yeah. What we gonna eat tonight? Well, wherever you want to eat. What
you wake up.
What movie we gonna see?
Whatever you want to see.
Last time it was your turn. Now it's my turn. Let me choose. Or what do you think? Where do you think we should go on vacation? We should go back to dating 101. We should always stay in that dating 101 because it's a selfless.
Yeah. It's
when you become selfish, you can't expect the relationship to grow.
Yeah.
And the other person is definitely not going to be overwhelmed by your behavior.
It's the principle of discipline, is practicing the fundamentals. One of the principles of establishing discipline is go back to the fundamentals.
Go back
and start practicing the fundamentals. Mm-hmm. So if you find your relationship in a quagmire, in a place where there's the lack of sacrifice, the lack of caring, the lack of caring for one another is missing, you got to go back to the fundamentals. As Mo was saying, you start to remember what you did during the dating phase, because that phase we move in that unconsciously confident that we're thinking of the person constantly, thinking about how to please that individual. We dress a certain way. Our minds are thinking, well, let me put this on. Why? Because they know he or she likes this. Or let me cook this meal, So you got to go back to the fundamentals. It's like a refreshing. It's like bringing a refreshing. When a relationship gets stale, it just needs some rain. It just needs some water. And what's water but a refreshing? And fundamentals bring a refreshing because they're consistent. They're consistent. You practice the basics. These things work if you work them. You got them by practicing fundamentals. You did certain things to get their attention. You did certain things to get their attention. You did certain things to sustain their attention. And what Mo is talking about, we can get to a place of complacency when we
That's the
stop.
word I've been looking for all night.
With complacency, we stop practicing the fundamentals. And that's when things get stale. And that's when things feel mundane.
And I was
Whenever things get mundane, you know, they feel rigid and hard and rough. Yeah, whenever things get mundane, the relationship feel rigid, hard. It feels like it's work now.
Mm-hmm. But see, that's the problem.
It feels like it's work.
That's the problem.
When it didn't feel like work in the early stages.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you said that,
because it feels like work.
When you said that, when the individual goes back to relationship 101 and
the fundamentals
with that bad behavior, what happens, it triggers other things. Because when the individual goes back, you or him or her, when you go back to that behavior, it triggers the past.
In the darkness.
It triggers the past, even the past things that happened, and the person starts thinking, see, this is why I don't want to be dealing with this person. This is why, because they're going back to their old behavior. And you talked about complacency. So you should never become complacent. Never become complacent. I'm telling you, it triggers when the other individual goes back, when that person goes back to that old complacency behavior, relationship 101, and does not stay in the dating stage 101, it triggers everything from the past. It could have been yesterday, it could have been 8 months ago, it could have been 8 years. It triggers, see, here they go again.
Well, you know,
and it's just, it's terrible.
That's a dangerous place.
Exactly.
And the reason it's dangerous is because we're supposed to be pressing forward. And when we find ourselves allowing the situation to have us regress and pull up memories of the past, the enemy has just started talking to you. And we got to guard our heart from that. Although it may be rewarding to remember the past because you want to make a point about the current dispensation, you got to be careful that your words and your edification is progressively moving forward. And it takes some discipline not to go there. Because when your mind starts to go there, your emotions do too. Your emotions, your mind, your emotional state will follow your thinking. And if you start going there, man, you're not going to feel good. And that's when things get. And so you got to find a place where when you find yourself tripping back and looking at the past mistakes and thinking that we're going to go back there, you got to fight against that. You got to fight against it. You got to do all you can because you'll find yourself in a dry place. And so every now and then you have to break up the monotony. You have to do something out the box. I heard Bishop Evans say this one. He said, whenever a relationship stalls. Now, he didn't say it this way, but I'm going to use this term. Whenever your relationship stalls, you have to input something new, something fresh to get it kick-started again. You got to change up some stuff. Take a different approach. Come out of that stall, that stale place and try something fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go to a different restaurant.
Yeah.
Do something different, you know, change up some stuff to bring a newness and a refreshing.
How about just changing your behavior?
Absolutely.
When you change your behavior and your attitude,
absolutely,
then that sets the tone for the dinner and those things. But if the attitude isn't changed, they're not going to want to be around you.
I agree.
I'm telling you, it's the selfishness is what it is. It's this full selfishness. When you think more of yourself than your mate, then that means you're just selfish and you're living in that one individual mindset.
It's a relationship killer. Selfishness is a relationship killer. It is. It is the root cause of separation. It is the root cause of breakup. At the very root is selfishness. Now you take a look at it. You take a look at all failure in relationships can be traced to selfishness. Guarantee you.
And you know what?
Guarantee
Something
you.
just came to me. Just the Holy Spirit. Just when you said that,
Mhm.
I was thinking that the reason why that person acts that way, why they go back to that old behavior, because they may be thinking they won't get their needs met. So let me just meet my own needs.
Possibly.
Because I'm thinking, because if to have a selfless,
Possibly.
to have a selfless spirit, you have to be thinking of other people. But when you don't think of other people, you're concerned about getting the things for yourself. You holding on, or you receiving it for yourself. You understand what I mean by that?
Self-preservation.
I think that was the Holy Spirit. That individual, that individual's afraid of not getting their needs met, so they're not going to give. Because if you knew, think about it, if you knew that you would get your needs met, why would you hold back from the other individual? If you know that person is meeting your needs, wants to meet your needs, and will do their best to meet your needs, why would you not meet theirs?
That's a good question.
Just asking.
That's a good question.
Just saying.
That's a good question. So how do we build a bridge back? How do we build back? Joe Biden would say, how do we build back better? How do we build back better? It begins with listening. It begins with listening. It begins with being hearing. Hearing. Mm-hmm. It begins
Hearing
with
what? Hearing what?
Hearing your mate. Really hearing them. Hearing them. What's proof that you've been heard? Your response to what you heard. Proof that you're being heard can be checked by response. So you have to, if you're going to build back better from that place where your relationship has gotten complacent, it's gotten stale, you have to find to both sides. This is not gender specific. You have to open your ears to hear. Because when we talk about failures in relationships, the statement will always say is, I told you already. You didn't hear me. You heard me, but you had no corresponding response.
But that's just like your boss has a meeting with you and said, these are the things that I need you to work on. These are the things that are expectation. These are what the job description is.
Right, exactly.
You don't hear them sometimes. Some people do. But you really hear when they say to you, your job is on the line. Here's your evaluation. These are the things we need you to work on, or we're going to have to put you on probation. And most couples will have to get to that point before they actually realize, I need to make some changes. And you don't want to get to that point because it's really simple. It's just looking at yourself, listening to what they're saying, your mate is saying, and making the adjustments. And always be conscious about whatever they're telling you so you don't make those mistakes. But you have to be selfless, thinking more of them and less of you. Because the way I always think about it, if you think more of somebody else, people will think of you. You understand what I mean by that?
Yeah, law of reciprocity.
Yes.
Law of reciprocity, right.
Yeah, so
you do for others,
God will make happen for you.
Absolutely.
But the thing about it is everybody's trying to get something for themselves.
Right.
What about me? What about me? I've given, and what about me? So people are looking in relationships to receive because they've been the giver all this time.
Right.
And now that COVID has happened and people have spent so much time together, we got to take a poll and see how many relationships have actually improved because they spent more time together. They were able to communicate and do more things together, or did it make it worse because now they realize they really couldn't stand each other? I mean, we just ask. We got to do a poll.
That's real talk. So to build back better, you gotta make sure that you become a hearer.
What else?
You make sure you got to become a hearer. You have to readdress. We have to readjust the core values because that's going to reveal the must-haves. The must-haves. I think we've said that when we've taught the must-haves, that it's okay not to. it's okay to make these declarative statements that I can't live without this. Be honest enough to say, without this, I don't know if I could be in a relationship without this.
And the person that's on the receiving end can't judge what they're saying is what they can't live without, because they can live without, because it doesn't bother them.
Right.
But again, it's not you.
I think it's a very open and honest. Think about if couples were not afraid to reveal what those boundaries are, and many couples do. But we've discovered sometimes there are unspoken boundaries that have not been properly communicated. There and when things are not being met, you discover, hey, this was really a boundary I've been violating for a long time. I did not take this as serious as you were thinking. I didn't view it that way. And it's that's a dangerous place to be, because sometimes we never really know the level of grace and the tolerance that a person has. You ever see somebody just get up and just leave the relationship all of a sudden? Their tolerance was ended a long time ago. You just never picked up on it. It's a surprise to you because they jetted.
When they physically jetted.
Yeah, but they checked out long before then. So you gotta, and I think the reason why some people are surprised when it ends abruptly is because of what we're taught, the principle of listening and being heard and making sure you understand what your mate needs to have sustainability, to what they really actually need to have that fruitful relationship. And I think that's an open place to begin. I really think that's a powerful place to be understood about. Yeah. So build back better. First things first. Prioritize. Make your significant other a priority. Yeah.
Make not necessarily, I guess it's the same as making them, but making their core values a priority, making what's important to them a priority.
Important to you.
Not what you think is important, what they think is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the last thing before we close is what needs to be done. First, you need to be a hearer. Number two, you need to readdress the core values. Number three, stop taking your mate for granted.
Yes.
Because in these days and time, with these stimulus checks and all the stuff that's going on, people can leave and survive. You can survive through COVID. I don't even drink, y'all.
You said
Corona.
Oh Lord.
I don't even drink.
Where'd you get that word? I know where it came from.
Corona.
Yeah, I remember where it came from. I know where it came from. It was sown into you.
Yeah, that's true.
Last night it was sown into you.
So that we have to just be careful. We got to stop taking advantage and stop taking our mate for granted. All right, so we don't have any questions. We don't gonna hold you long. We love you guys so much. If you need to contact us, I'm gonna put it in the chat. So you can send us an email if you like. If you have any questions or concerns, if you need counseling, let us know. All right. Love you guys so much.
Have a great night.
See you later. I keep going like that. I keep forgetting.
It's not yours.
I know.
Yours is all about touching.